And welcome back to this, the final part of our exploration of bumps, normals, and displacements in Renderman for Maya. So in this tutorial we will be looking at vector displacement. Now we've looked before at standard displacement, just using a black and white image which we painted. We've done 32-bit displacement from Zbrush, and in this exercise we'll be looking at a vector displacement. Now for those of you who don't know what a vector displacement is, it's not just displacing along the normal, it's displacing basically around corners. Now the first time I saw it, it looked like dark magic to me. Other people describe it as displacement maps on steroids, but it allows us to do some things which would be impossible with standard displacement. Let's just have a look at the file which we'll be working with here now. I want to actually open up a new file here, so I'm going to go to File, Open. I don't want to save my changes. I want to be looking for, in my Maya projects, let me see, Maya projects, Renderman exercises, Zbrush, and what is my latest date one? It is this one, okay. So here we go, looks similar but it's a slightly different file. In this file we have an ear. Believe it or not, this is an ear. Okay, if I go to my geometry here and I turn my subdivision up to the highest level, we'll see we're actually getting an ear. Okay, let's turn off perspective there, I don't need perspective on. So yes, we have an ear. This is the geometry which we've made from a very, very simple flat plane. What I want to do first of all is I want to actually get this geometry back into Maya. So what I've done is I've exported an OBJ. I'm going to go to File and I'm going to import that now. So this is at the lowest subdivision level. Point myself at the right directory. And ZBrush. And it should be, let me see, OBJ. Let me see if this is the correct one. It should just be a simple plane. No, it's not that one. File. Let's get rid of that. File, import. Just one moment. Date modified. Let me see where we are here. This should be it. Okay, simple plane. Excellent. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And we can just see there, it's a plane. Okay. I'm going to put in an environment light here. I'm going to plug in our nice old-fashioned EXR. So going back to my Renderman exercises, my source images. Going to find my Fin4 reference EXR. Okay, and apply our standard map material for this object here. So as it stands out of the box, here we go. We're just going to try rendering this, and our expected result will be, it'll look like this. Let's try re-rendering it. Okay, getting some strangeness happening here with the Maya render trying to start up. Close down it. This is an issue I get on my machine. So delete my. Okay. Try launching rendering from here again, and hopefully, yes, we get a new instance of it starting up. And we're getting some noise here. And the noise which we're getting is because of the number of samples here. 128 will probably give us better. Set it to be always on top and re-render. Looking a lot nicer. Okay, I just want to raise the window here for the catalog. So raise all and just drag that in here so we have access to that. Drop it down there. Not much else happening in that part of the scene. That'll do over there. Okay. So we can have a look backwards and forwards between the old and the new. Okay. Now with this material, it's default map material. What we're going to look at, first of all, we don't need any of the attributes up here. We're only going to look at displacement. We don't currently have a displacement map. We can do some setting up for it. So displacement needs to be enabled, and it needs to be a displace, and the displacement mode needs to be ZBrush vector tangent, because that's the way I'm going to make it. Okay. Now we'll go into ZBrush. Here is our scene again, and I'm going to go up to 11 as we have it here. Okay. Looking at this, it's a good example of why we would actually need vector displacement. If I was to displace this using standard displacement methods, I could only displace, if I zoom in here, I could only displace a point from here once. Using vector displacement, we're basically warping the entire mesh to come around these corners. So with standard displacement, we can displace to this point, or this point, or this point up here. We can't do them all. With vector displacement, we're basically moving this whole mesh, sucking in here and round here. So it works with meshes which have been deformed, not necessarily just random geometry. But it produces a very, very good method for producing concavities in displaced objects. So let's just have a look at how we do this. I'm going to do this slightly differently from using the Z plugin, from using the multi-map exporter. The reason being, I've actually got a higher level of subdivision here than we would usually have. So I'm up to 11. Yes, my subdivision goes up to 11 for fans of certain rock movies there. The critical thing which we need to set to make all of this work is under our preferences. We have a specific preference here, which is the tangent flip and switch. This is a setting which tells ZBrush how to export its vector displacement map. There are three colors which can be used: red, green and blue, which will be displacing in an X, Y and Z direction. So red, green and blue could be any of those. Also they can be positive or negative. Also they can be working a left-handed or right-handed coordinate system. So this is the particular setting. 3 is the magic number for Renderman from Maya. Now if you are using other renderers, you can actually check with Pixelogic, the makers of ZBrush, and they have a default scene which they allow you to export, and it basically categorizes where the correct export settings will be. It's basically a test bed for it. Okay. Now the way in which I'm going to export now, rather than using the Z plugin here, is I'm going to actually use this create and export vector displacement map here. The reason for that, as I said, is we have a higher order of subdivision than would usually be allowed. So let me just go and do that. EXR, yes, I'm going to call this my new ear. Okay. Save. It's telling me to switch to a lower level of subdivision to do that. Okay, I must do that. Apologies for that. We always make mistakes. Okay, and now create and export vector displacement. My new ear. Save it. It's thinking about it and saving it now. I've previously set the size of the map, so hopefully that's coming through okay. I believe it'll be a 4096. Writing that file. I don't need to export the base mesh, I've already done that. Okay. Let's have a look back in Maya. In Maya, where we plug in our vector displacement map is here under vector displacement. Strangely enough, it's a file. We don't need to filter it, and we don't need to have gamma correction because it is a floating point. Okay, my new ear, EXR, open it. Hopefully it shows up here in a second, which it has done. Okay, and this is a preview of it here. It looks like it should be working okay. Let's try. Let's get image tool back up here. Okay, Let's try re-rendering it. Not expecting results yet, but it will re-render. Just takes a second to start up again. There we go, lovely, it's still a plane. Why is it still a plane? Because one thing we didn't set here, the displacement scale. In general, for displacement, for vector displacement, coming from ZBrush to Maya, we need to set the scale to 1. And fingers crossed, hopefully some magic happens. Let's try re-rendering. And yes, we're actually getting an ear appearing here. Now, with this plane here at the moment, I haven't actually put in a subdivision. Oops, let me just go here. I haven't put in a subdivision attribute in Renderman, so let's put in a subdiv scheme. Let's try re-rendering. Okay, still getting a little bit of issue there with some tearing. Displacement scale is correct. The other thing which I'm going to set here is I'm going to add an attribute. Okay, let me just see here. I need to add the Renderman displacement attribute. And let's set this to 4. Still getting quite a lot of noisiness happening here, but we are definitely seeing that we are getting an ear. Let me just check a few other attributes which I may have to actually work with here. Underneath our render controls, let me look at my features. I want to turn on ray tracing and re-render. And oops, shading rate, quality. The quality needs to be set to 1 to actually get good results. This should actually help us. It's the decimation rate of the actual pixels. There we go, we're seeing much nicer results here. So remember, it's working with micro polygons. If I rotate this around slightly, because the ear is facing a strange direction, let's rotate this around so it looks like an ear. And we re-render. And let's just move around here, re-render. So yes, we still have a few issues which we can sort out in terms of quality, but these just take tweaking. Let's have a look along here, and we're seeing basically where we're getting the value from this is that we're getting true vector displacement. We're getting this curve, we're actually able to displace along this curve here. Okay, so that's basically vector displacement in a nutshell. There are some things we can do to tweak it. I highly recommend reading the Renderman from Maya documentation as well. But that's just basically how to set it up, exporting from ZBrush and rendering within Renderman. So thanks for that. I'll come back to you soon as I can with some more tutorials. Thanks again.